We are waiting for a few more participants, so please, we apologize. We're going to wait a few minutes for Alicia to connect. So once again, good afternoon. We hope this meeting flows perfectly well and it is very effective. The purpose today is to TASA can present their proposal, their approach on how they're going to use the insurance funds destined for the post-storm response and monitoring, to also have the committee be able to listen to their approach firsthand, their proposal, methodological proposal, the budget, and how it's going to be reassigned, and the committee can ask questions and evaluate the proposal. So the three aspects are their TASA presentation, questions on the committee, and any other recommendations that might be added. So I would like to recommend that TASA could share their presentations because they need access to be able to present their information, and we can all have the opportunity to share on Zoom so that everybody has that option. So Valdemar, if you could go ahead.
Buenas tardes, Claudio, and good afternoon to everybody. I'll do in English for the benefit of my team. But so what we will do here, and first of all, let me say to the to Marfan and the entire committee that we are grateful to where we are today. There have been a lot of lessons learned, and so what Virginia will lead the team in putting the facts to you, because I think at this point we both have proposals, but also as the experts, as the requisite experts here in the field, we would like to get from you some recommendations on how do we move forward. I think it is necessary to let you know that this, and we both know that this is a pilot, and there have been a lot of lessons learned in our case. And so what this afternoon is basically to discuss how can we move forward from where we are with the information that we have. And I think there's some of this that Virginia presented in the last paper that she sent. But then but now I will give her the floor for her to basically put this forward to all of you, and then start the discussions from there. Thank you. Virg?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you very much for inviting us to this meeting. Just for clarification, my understanding is that we're presenting, well, we sent in a concept and not a fleshed out proposal as yet until we receive some indication that the concept is accepted. And so the short paper that was shared was basically proposing that funds are reallocated to focus on getting a comprehensive assessment of corals at Turnef at the moment. And this is really for a couple of reasons, including last week's announcement by NOAA that we are now facing our 4th global coral bleaching event. Also in Belize, currently we're working on our national coral restoration strategy. We do have a big super reefs project ongoing, and all indications is that TASA will be Turnef will be a key site for this project. And so given that after the primary and secondary response were conducted, and we visited the site again late last year and determined that the interventions were not successful at these two shallow patch reef sites, we're thinking that for a more impactful strategy, it would make more sense for us to really take stock of the status of coral reefs currently at Turnef before we attempt to restore, which means that we would have to extend the timeline to the end of the year to focus on the assessment. And with the assessment, we are considering the AGRA protocol. And that would include focusing on the University of Belize's established localities, 9 localities. But certainly there are some gaps in how those are positioned. So let me just share that map for the benefit of everyone. Can you see this, the map? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
We could see the map.
Okay, one second, 1 second. Here it is. So basically what you're looking at here is those black triangles are the determined localities from the University of Belize. There are 9 of them. And so the idea would be to use the AGRA protocol at these sites because it would not be practical to do any sort of diving to map individual coral colonies. That would be really an impossible task. And so it would mean these comprehensive assessments using the AGRA methodology, assessing the state of corals, mortality, disease, and bleaching, of course. So this would give us a big picture of what is the status of corals in Turnef. This also means that we would have to fill a lot of the gaps that you're seeing in here. These are only 9 localities, but Turnef is a large area. And so we would have to also include additional areas to cover the full extent of Turnef. At this time, this is only a concept, which means that it still needs some more fleshing out. And the idea is that I'm not sure that we would get to restoration. I know the whole idea of the parametric insurance was to get to restoration. And, that's why the 2 impacted sites were targeted for emergency restoration, and those activities did happen. But unfortunately, the corals did not survive. And I think that was compounded also by the mass bleaching events of last year. So at this point where we are, we don't have a budget because again, Turnef is quite huge and we do not have an idea of what that would cost, including the time frame that we would need to accomplish this task. We're also not in a position to all leave our desk for an entire month to focus on an activity like this. So it would have to be done in parts. I think at this point, we really are seeking guidance. We even went back to the early warning and rapid response protocol and looking at that section that refers to post-response actions. Unfortunately, it was only a 1-pager there. And I certainly think that after this experience that TASA is having, I'm sure there will be a lot more that can be added to this section. But really where we are is the post-response actions. And perhaps, maybe the way this should have been handled was for us to first get guidance from the committee in how this situation should have been approached. But we made a proposal first. And so that's why we're here. And I am not sure if we're operating the way it should be. I guess this is the first time, and it truly is a pilot because there's no clear guidelines as to how to approach a situation like this. But we are 1 year and 5 months post Hurricane Lisa, well past primary and secondary response. And so I think we're at a critical juncture now where we need to determine how these funds will be used. Of course, again, I know the ideal situation would have been for those 2 impacted sites to be properly or fully restored. But due to all the elements working against us, the proposal really came from a place of trying to use these funds for a more impactful strategy as opposed to being reactionary and just focusing on these two sites that are quite shallow sites, and given all the other parameters we believe would not be as successful. We feel that taking stock of the coral community at this time at Turnef would yield more impactful results and a better baseline as we move into, finalizing a coral reef restoration strategy for Belize, as we see the outputs from the Super Reefs project, and also given the advice of some very senior coral experts on delaying outplanting or restoration efforts at this time due to the bleaching events that we're facing. I think perhaps the best way to go through this, based on the short paper that was circulated, might be for me to, or for the team to respond to any questions you might have at this time.
Gracias, Virginia. Adelante, María José.
Thank you, Virginia. Maria Jose.
Just one thing regarding the map you just shared. Thanks for that. What are these 9 predetermined sites for UBERI? Are they have they had more research? Why these 9?
So these are 9 general localities. They're not just 9 individual sites. They're like the general localities. And my understanding is that these were decided as critical areas that needed to be monitored across time. And really resources played a major role in determining these 9 localities, because certainly if funding was always available, they would have had added more. These sites are the key sites where agri-monitoring has taken place, where a lot of several other types of research. And so one of the benefits of us taking this approach would also mean we can go back and access some of the University of Belize's data that they have on these sites and be able to track the changes over time, especially given the last couple of years with stony coral tissue loss disease and bleaching. We do have Kevin Novello on here, who used to work at the University of Belize. And I don't know, Kevin, if I captured how those localities were determined, or if there's anything that you would like to add onto that.
Yes, I think you explained that correctly. Just wanted to mention that these localities, they have from the back reef, shallow core reef, and deep core reef, encompassing the 3 sections of the reef, right?
May I just build on that, Valdemar, before you jump in? Given the issue of bleaching and just a horrendous increase in temperature, would it still make sense to map the very shallow reefs, or those 9 sites, those that are also in shallow reefs?
I think it would. I think if we want a comprehensive picture, because some corals, they might very well bleach, but they may be resilient and recover quite well. And I think that's an important component for us to document.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Maria Jose, that leads me right into what I wanted to say, right? I mean, I think the biggest lesson learned here so far, at least in talking to Virginia as our resident expert and getting her best advice, is that what has happened here is that the site that was affected is a shallow area. And so because of the bleaching event that we had last year, it was severely affected. So one thing is to do emergency response and to repair as many corals as we can. And the other thing is restoration. But to me, the restoration here has to also be guided by Virginia and other experts to be able to. So the mapping is important because now that we have had that coral bleaching event last year and we're expecting another one this year, we could better look at what the recovery are from those corals, which corals are more resistant. And you know what I'm seeing from this initial pilot is that not we may not be able to restore where the event was,
Mhm.
right? We may
Mhm.
we may want to take advantage of restoring nearby reefs or reefs that show resilience over the entire turnoff so that we get ahead of the event, so that in essence we have a bank of corals to give when an event comes through. So I think the position here is to be in a position to show that we can work towards ensuring that we have the capabilities to do continuous work. And that capability means having people in place, equipment in place, and having the ability to respond and have the data to analyze and say, okay, if an event comes through, then what is the best strategy for that event? Because restoration may not be the best strategy for that event at that given time, right? And so at least that's my understanding of the data and the information and what has come out of what we have done so far. But I think that requires guidance from the experts here as well to be able to do that. I think what the major opportunity here, Maria Jose and Claudia, is to get comprehensive coral information for Turnef. And to be able to look at this approach for an offshore site, because this is what is different from, I think, the sites in Mexico. This is pretty much offshore. You're talking about the different costs and different capacities and logistical realities that we are looking at, and strengthening the whole response protocol. I think response is one thing, but I think having a strategy over time on this through the parametric insurance program is important. Then we can talk about just the whole parametric insurance modality in another segment.
I just wanted to add here though, this is such an adaptive process, right? So it's one thing to propose that it may be more impactful for us to do a comprehensive assessment of reefs at Turnef. I also would like to add here that for as much as we would like to explore the restoring, if given the opportunity, if you all agree that we can go ahead and do this assessment, after the assessment, again, I don't know what position we would be to immediately do any type of restoration, because there's so many moving variables in this work. God forbid, another hurricane hitting, or temperatures continue to increase. There's so many factors here. One of my hesitations in all of this is, while we can commit to completing a comprehensive assessment over time, and I'm hoping that this is something that we would be able to complete by the end of the year, I am not in a position to guarantee that we can immediately jump right into restoration. And I really ask for leniency in this proposal and understanding, because there's so many parts of this that I don't think any of us can predict, right? What I'm after is that we're not focusing on doing checkbox activities where we said, okay, the insurance was triggered, we got the money, did we restore? Checkbox. Did we do this? Check. I think the aim here should be impact, and that I think it would be a wonderful result or output from this entire parametric scheme, that the funds were used for something that would really be the foundation of any restoration intervention moving forward. like I said, I don't, what I'm saying is I don't know how much we can commit to post this assessment. We go right into restoration. We can definitely, by the time we wrap this up, I'm hoping that we have some results from the Super Reefs experiment, and we should be in a better position with our national restoration strategy. And I think all those things combined can give us some guidance. And again, I don't know all of what is happening here. We're really trying to make the best decisions with the information that we currently have. And if the committee is also in a position to give technical advice and guidance, we're open to that. But I just want to, give some caution just on expectations.
If I may, yes, I think that's the reason for the assessment, right? To define exactly what is happening and where it's at this point and what can be, steps moving forward. And I just have a question, and I know Mari Carmen, who couldn't join, and she's, she also has a lot of literally hands-on experience in restoring coral. She had some specific questions or recommendations, but I think we can go through those. I just have a question. I guess HRI does have, right, areas that they monitor, like monitor sites that maybe if they did like an initial assessment of bleaching last year, are those sites that you can add now to see whether they've recovered or not?
So HRI doesn't monitor at Turnef.
Not at all?
The data that goes into the report card is
It's
actually
yours.
collected by TASA and the University of
Ah,
Belize, correct?
Okay, okay.
So, and the sites are, I believe the sites are mostly in those localities. Kevin, you can help me. There's so many different monitoring programs, Maria Jose, and so I'm trying to, but this last report card, we submitted 17 sites. I believe a few of them fell in those general localities.
Okay.
Am I right, Kevin?
The Agra, yes, sorry. These sites are the Agra sites for 2023.
There we go. So yeah, it's the
Okay.
same sites
The
that are
same
reported in
9.
the report card, correctly.
Okay,
Well, the
good.
9 localities, they are sites within localities. The localities are the general areas, right?
Right.
So yes, so that's the data that went for the report card.
Okay, okay. So no, then it's fine. It's covered. I was just, saying my intention was don't leave any areas that already have some information from last year
Yes.
out of the assessment, because you'd be able to see whether they recovered or not, right? At least from bleaching.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we did do some additional, so Agra was done last year, and then there was some bleaching surveys done at the end of last year. The team went back out in January and February to do a quick assessment, and there was a little bit of recovery, but those are only like 2 or 3 sites, right? That's not a full picture of what's happening on the
Right.
ground.
Right. Okay, okay, thank you.
Ok, gracias. Antes de pasar a las preguntas de María del Carmen,
Okay,
y,
before we proceed with Mari Carmen's questions, we'd like to know if anyone else has any comments or questions. Guatemala, Belize, Honduras.
None from my side at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, muchas gracias.
gracias. Sorry, I think I'm gonna switch to English for a little bit. Virginia Valdemar, you have mentioned that the emergency response protocol a couple of times, and the emergency response protocol has some recommendations on and activities of or the activities that needs to be conducted, but this is a general protocol, right? It's general. So basically, I think the specifications for each site have to be included in the response for the site and the response plan for the site, right? Instead of, so basically it is something, first of all, if the response protocol doesn't include it is information, crucial and important information for you to make decisions at each site, please send those to us and we can just add them in a second version of the protocol, right? Let us know what is exactly what you need to see in this type of documents or instruments. And also, you may also use your emergency response plan for the site, which is, this is a document that is site specific. So basically these are my comments, and also, well, I have other questions as well, but before going to Maria del Carmen questions, Sarah, I would like to know if you have any questions or comments to this approach.
Not right now, Claudia. Many of the questions that I have are also questions that Mari Carmen has, so maybe after they answer them. Thank you.
Okay, gracias. Okay, so as you know, well, we decided to translate this document into Spanish, this concept. So basically, for those members of the committee that want to read and to have all the information in Spanish, or it's easier for them, you know, to read this language. So basically, here it says one of the questions that the Maria del Carmen has is in terms of where it says the initiative of integral mapping of the coral reefs. She's asking if you already have an estimate of the mortality due to stony coral tissue loss disease. That's the first question.
Well, based on the assessments done at the, so although there are 9 localities, and Kevin, you can help me here. I know that some stony coral tissue loss disease interventions took place at some of these sites. I can't guarantee that it was at all localities. And I don't know, Kevin, if you have a number or an estimate of the sites where these interventions took place.
Sorry.
But really
the
it was a
question-
subset.
Yes, for this year it was a subset. It was only
Mhm.
3 of the 9 sites. The coral bleaching sites are also the same for the deep 4 reefs.
You're right.
Okay, so
So that means you have the information for 3 of the 9 sites?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So the rest would need it. Part of the assessment would include the other sites.
You're right. And then we're also aiming to include some new sites,
Yeah.
right? For the gaps that we have at Turner.
Right.
okay, thank you. There is another comment here, a question, well, basically more than comment, is that when you mentioned the bleaching, the bleaching, right, is that you're gonna map the survivals, you know, of the stony coral tissue loss disease and the bleaching as a strategy based on the data for the restoration plans in 2025 and the future. Maria del Carmen is mentioning that there is the need to identify the mortality of bleaching and then the survival, right? The survival. I don't know if that's the word. So basically, first to have information in terms of the mortality of the bleaching in order to find out about what is the survival. Sí, Sara, adelante.
Okay.
So just one second. Sara?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask if SETLD is still active in the very active, or has it passed already? What is
I think I can answer that.
what's the phase? Yeah.
Yeah, it's already in the late stages of it. We don't really see much of it. What we do see affecting most of the corals at these sites is coral bleaching and some of the black band disease. But you know, those high vulnerable corals are already pretty much gone.
Yeah. So this is
Okay.
mostly focused on resilient species, right? Because it's like
Yes.
SETLD is long gone. So you'd be using like historical data of the past 2 years, would I say? Or just last year?
Well, we collected from last year, so we have that data, but we also have the other past. Well, we would have to access that data from UBER, right? But it does exist.
Okay, thank you.
Also, back to Mary Carmen's comment. So we did receive some funding early this year from the Coastal Zone Management Authority and Institute through the Reefs Resilience Initiatives project. And so the team did go back to, I think it was 2 specific sites, right, Kevin? To compare the data from 2023. And so they were able to note some recovery there. I think it was 2 sites.
We did 3 sites.
3 sites.
Those were the most affected ones, and we did see a drop from around 56% down to 8% of bleaching, and we did record mortality.
Yeah, so that's really looking at 3 sites on the entire atoll, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's good news.
Yes, it is. It's a good indication.
Okay, thanks. So there is another thing here that she's mentioning, another comment, because you mentioned that you are going to safeguard reefs within the protected areas, right? And so basically she says that we need to protect areas or safeguard areas with less probability of perturbation due to high temperatures, right? So basically frontal reef,
Deep.
deep areas and sites with currents and human impact.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
think this is
basically-
also, yeah, this is Claudia, this is also the why Kevin mentioned the profile of the 9 sites, right? That it includes all of these areas. Fortunately, in the case of Turnef, it has a 1 mile radius around the entire atoll, so everything falls in the protected area.
Let's check. Yeah, I have another question here, just only in terms of, you mentioned that Lisa has shared information from a colleague at NOAA. So I was just wondering, asking who's this colleague? But you can add this information later here. In terms of continuing with the comments from Maria Carmen and her questions, you're mentioning is that actually this colleague at NOAA validated the strategy, right? And the strategy, and she agreed with that it was imperative to focus the efforts in mapping the survival of stony coral and bleaching. So basically, Maria Carmen is asking, what is this strategy, right? If in this strategy includes not restoring, what type of actions, restoration actions would include, and needs to specify this information based that because this information is general, so it needs to be more specific in terms of what this strategy is about. So basically, go ahead.
So maybe that wasn't the right word to use there, but basically, Lisa received confirmation from her colleague at NOAA that they agreed with the decision to delay all outplanting in the immediate future, which and the strategy really is speaking to focusing on taking stock of what species has survived and where. So it's not a formal strategy per se. I should have said, maybe I use the word plan or something. That's the plan or the idea of focusing efforts on doing assessments and taking stock of the status of corals.
Okay.
And a question, just just out of curiosity. So Lisa will not be doing any outplanting from her nurseries. She will keep the fragments at the nurseries for the time being.
She has indicated that out at Southwater Key, she does have a table, and she still has to think about what she's going to do with that table. But generally this year, Fragments of Hope is going to focus on a lot of capacity building, training for partners, but that she will not be doing outplanting right now.
Okay, no, understood. And just a question. I know this was an issue with Mari Carmen and last year, given that the temperatures, and they had to move the tables, those that were not completely cemented on the bottom, they moved them to deeper waters. Do you know if Lisa is doing that with her nurseries?
Not to my knowledge. I could ask her. I think so far she has indicated that she only has one table out at Saltwater right now.
Okay.
I think off Placencia. I don't believe she's being active right now in that area.
Okay,
The
okay.
corals there are looking pretty good.
Okay, that's good too. Yeah. Yes, I know Mari Carmen said they had to move them at some point, those that could be moved to deeper waters to to reduce somewhat the temperature.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. A few more questions here from Mari Carmen. It says that what coordinates, or which coordinates you are here that with the confirmation of Lisa, you are authorized to utilize or to use their coordinates, her coordinates, initial coordinates with the, to do this cartography exercise. So she's asking, what are these coordinates?
So Lisa has done some preliminary mapping out at Turnef, specifically on acroporas. So she has coordinates for spatial location of these acroporas. So this would also be integrated into our surveys so that we can confirm the general status of what she had mapped and compare.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks. And so also there's another question is that another question here is that what were the criteria that Lisa used in order to select those sites?
I gather that it was that these were really opportunistic visits to Turnef where they started to map. I know she's very focused on acroporas, and I think she was also looking at pillar corals and just trying to map over time. So this was never like a one-time thing. It's over many years of her visits to Turnef trying to get an understanding of where these species are on the atoll. I'm not certain if she had specific criteria in terms of size or depth.
To select the species. Okay. Sarah, do you have any comment here or question?
I'm gonna let them finish because I do have the same question, like why only those 4 species, or maybe it's like a bigger list and you wrote down only those 4 species, but I would like to know like how they were selected and why.
Yes, because Mari Carmen is asking what are the criteria to select the sites and to select the species.
So this will, through the Agra survey, all species will be documented. The sites, well, we're focusing on the localities from the pre-established localities from the university and building on that. So these what's listed here was just really highlighting these key genus.
Okay.
I have one question. Do you still have Dendrogeta in the internet?
I have seen, I have not been diving recently, but I don't know, Kevin, have you seen any recently?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Some,
so
not a lot, but we still do.
still there.
That's good. That's good.
Well, the last comment is based on the training, the capacity building. So basically what Maria Carmen is saying is that this type of capacity building, it is not part of the response, right? That is described in the emergency support guideline, which also is the mechanism that administer the insurance payout. So basically, most of the capacity building should address or should be directed to train brigades, for example, or train the response committee, or train, elaborate more on the response protocol and the response plan for the site.
I So what's listed here, Claudia, is really highlighting how serious TASA treats capacity building for our team. And the brigade, all that's listed here that has happened or will happen are really capacity building opportunities that complement the brigade training or the brigade certification. They're critical. The brigade certification is really, in my opinion, still at a basic level. And it covers some emergency response. But I think that some of the capacity building that you see listed here in terms of being certified in the AGRA protocol or learning coral spawning methods from Dr. Anya Banazak, those are really important expertise for the team to use for these types of field activities. Recently, we had another staff join training that Fragments of Hope had a couple weeks ago on coral restoration. Kevin is also, completing his dive master this month so that he would be able to eventually elevate to brigade trainer certification so that we can have that in-house expertise. And then finally, there's a big and important activity coming up in June through the MPA network. It's a peer-to-peer learning exchange, developing coral restoration roadmaps. That's really critical because with this work, we're never in isolation and we cannot work in silos. And so all of these opportunities for the team to further enhance their skills complements and really solidifies the whole approach of this of our response plan.
May I
Yeah.
add a question? Go ahead, Valdemar, sorry.
No, I'll wait. Go ahead, and then when you finish, Maria Jose.
No, with your response, Virginia, well, you've provided a lot more information on that regarding capacity building. So these are mostly, let's say, to enhance the capacities of the team that is involved in restoration as opportunities arise. Some you already know, right? Like you're mentioning in June, the MPA network one, but because here, those are the ones that have been already trained, right?
What's listed here, most of them it has already happened already, and the staff has already received the training. There are only two that's upcoming, which is the one in June, which Kevin will attend this one. And then Kevin is also completing his dive master training actually this week and next week. So it's just highlighting that we take capacity building very seriously, and that the way we view even this parametric insurance, although we hope that we'll never have to have another hurricane and have to deal with another insurance, we take what we have in front of us very seriously. And the point of it all is really to say that we want to ensure that we have the right team with the right expertise to implement what is decided here today.
So I just wanted to add, Maria Jose and Claudia, that, you know, from where I sit from being in this, because it has, as per my response, you know, while I think we have turned this into a big proposal, and that's always taxing on us in terms of managing, the opportunity here for us has been that we would have been able to, through these funds, build the capacity of the team to be able to respond. Because even if we can't logistically put a team together, depending on how the hurricane is, we have to be able to have a first response on the ground to be able to undertake these things. I can tell you that the discussions on our end with Virginia and now building the capacity of Kevin and Andres, having been on the ground for quite a while, has been robust, right? So when we are presenting something to you, it's not coming from the lack of asking our own selves these very questions that you're asking us here and trying to have the best answers. But there are some things that we're still learning as we go along. And that is why the capacity building is important. So through our MPA connections and through other networks that we are a part of, you know, we are ensuring that we are in a best position to be able to move this forward. But in line with what Virginia said about the parametric insurance, I think for the future, there has to be a template, because there's no way that we can get a payout. We have to write a proposal to get a payout. All of that lag time and management is time away from actual implementation, right? And so once we get the template done, then we can best implement.
Yes, and that's why Claudia was in touch with you before it actually hit, right? So things actually, for that first payment, came out as planned, because it was like clockwork. It was, everything happened on time. Just a question, because I see that a lot of your team has gotten this additional information. Are they doing like peer-to-peer training within your same team to enhance some of this knowledge or share it within the team?
Well, the team is really, how many of us? 3, 4, 5. Five
Okay.
people, right? Um, Kevin is our conservation manager. The scope of the work of TASA has grown significantly, that I am not in a position to be in the field as much as I would like to anymore, unfortunately. The last time I dove was in January, and I've not been able to return to the field since then. And so Kevin is now the lead in the field, as my portfolio at TASA has really increased, and I'm responsible for very many things. And so the two key staff members, the two key team members are Kevin and Farah, who lead all field efforts. Everybody else that we put in the field, we ensure that they are trained and knowledgeable about the different methodologies and knowledgeable about species identification. With something like this, though, we would definitely be working along with people who are either at the University of Belize or previously at the University of Belize. And we'll make sure that it is the right team. We would also, as I mentioned, like to engage a couple students from the University of Belize, because we think this is an excellent opportunity for students, to build capacity. And I think it will reflect really well on the parametric insurance, to know that some funds went to building national capacity. We hope that you will be supportive of that suggestion as well.
Yeah,
Thanks.
because Maria Jose, a big part of it is also, Virginia as the director also has to build succession planning, right? And so she has to make sure that, at the end of the day, as you see in this conversation, Kevin engaged a lot on the technical aspects, right? And so how do we ensure that we are bringing up the next level of management to ensure that they are able to bring from the field, so we're able to make management decisions and program management interventions, right? And that's the adaptive part of it that is very much so. But in this case, we have been learning a lot out of this. So I have to say that a big lesson out of this is, this is really a pilot. It's still in the nascent stages until we get all of this information together. And even then, I don't know what climate change will bring, what other pressures may bring, depending on what policies are put in the ground for fisheries and other management interventions. All of those things may have to yield an adjustment as we go along. As you were saying, Claudia, these have to now go into the response plan, right? And in my humble estimation, the response plan isn't about the immediate response at the time or just after the hurricane. This response plan now becomes, in my estimation, in perpetuity, right? Because once you have intervened, then you're managing, and then you have to adapt as you go along. And so I can tell you, I was just out there last week, and I was, I even called Kevin and said, what is the recovery? Because I recovered from coral bleaching, because what I saw was amazing. Because 3 months ago when I went out there, everything was white. And when I went out a week ago, everything is recovering, for the most part. You still see some evidence, but for the most part, everything was yellow, recovering. I was amazed to see that level of recovery, right? I mean, so I think with all of that information, then Virginia and her team can best advise how do we plan these responses here?
That first, it's wonderful news, right? That they are recovering, especially if another wave is going to come and hit it. We want it to be as strong as possible before that occurs, right? So they're ready to receive that, because it's going to still be hot, right? This year, it's still going to be quite hot. So that is good news. Just another question, and I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. I'm probably going ahead of Sarah, but I know this will be the mapping for Ternaf that will be then part of the jigsaw puzzle for all of Belize, right? What is the time frame for this?
For the assessment, I'm really hoping that we can accomplish this this year. I feel like already we're completely booked up until June and maybe half of July, but the idea is really to conduct this over the summer. And as best as possible. And if there are any sites left that we would try to complete everything by September. That is my hope. But as I've quickly learned, every time you plan, you have to make adjustments. So that's the aim. And then we hope to have a report that we'll be able to share with the committee. We do want to align this with the Super Reefs project, and then also looking at the national restoration strategy. So my understanding is, especially for the strategy, I believe that would be ready for maybe the last quarter of this year. I think, Alicia, I don't know, maybe you could comment on that.
Yes, it should be ready by then. Keyword should, but we're delayed a bit, quite a bit. But we're aiming for by December, yes.
To have the national strategy. So this will be ready to feed into that. Okay.
It should be, yes.
Yeah, and I know the consultant has already indicated that they would be coming to each especially the co-managers or whoever is collecting data for data with in this regard. So I think this would be this would really, if everything goes as planned, I think everything will align really well.
Thanks, Virginia.
Thank you. And also, Sarah, do you have another question? I understand.
Yes. Thank you, Virginia. I know that we've talked about this a lot, and you said that you wanted to do a more holistic monitoring. But can you please explain a little bit of the methodology that you'll be using? Um, will you like place hobo loggers in the 3 sites or more than one hobo loggers? Will you also be doing water quality? Will you also be doing genetic studies? Because I know that you want to study the resilience, right? And I'm not really familiar with the Super Reef project. So if you just could just help me a little bit, help us a little bit with the methodology, please.
Right. So in terms of water quality, we did investigate some equipment, but it was really too costly and almost took up the entire budget line. So that did not work. We want to focus on the loggers and ensuring that at each locality, we have a minimum of 1 to 2 temperature loggers deployed in those areas. With regards to the Super Reefs project, it's actually a thermal experiment that they're conducting where they're using fragments of corals and different species and then placing them in buckets of water where they are manipulating the temperature to see which one of these corals are able to, I believe, survive or recover from that stress activity. With regards to what was the next? I think you asked something else. You asked-
Genetics.
No, we will not be doing any genetics. I'm not certain if the Super Reefs maybe the Super Reefs project will do genetics again. Alisa, I don't know. Maybe you are aware. I don't know. I'm not certain.
They are taking samples, yes, of some
Okay.
of them.
There we go.
But I'm not sure if it's for genetics, but if genetics is included, I don't recall, but I think so.
Yeah. And honestly, with everything that we're planning and doing genetics, the funding would not be enough for all of that, the mapping. And then in terms of the methodology for the assessment, we're looking at using the AGRA methods, which is, and again, Kevin, help me, I think it's a 10-meter transect, 10 by
Yes.
Okay, and it's really swimming along those transects, documenting the corals, and in this case, I think we would try to, we're looking at mortality diseases and also trying to get a size of these different types of corals as well, because while AGRA has been conducted at Turnef to inform the Healthy Reefs Initiative report card, it has not included coral community data collection in this way. Last year, it was really focused, I think it was just on fish and the benthic surveys. Am I right, Kevin?
Yes, that's correct. There was only fish and benthic.
Yeah. Is that, I feel like I might have missed a question, or I don't know, it was a lot.
Yeah,
Was there
sorry.
anything else?
I think yes, I think I only have one more question. So you guys will be collaborating with the people that are doing the Super Reef project? I mean, the information will be used as a whole, because it would be great if it is, right? Because they have information you don't have, and then you'll be mapping in the field.
I cannot say if the timelines will align as I hope, but the intention is certainly that whatever data is collected through the Super Reefs project, that it will be shared with all partners, and we are certainly open to collaboration at all levels. I've been in touch with the project coordinator, and we have been, they're currently out there at Turnef right now doing some preliminary assessments, and TASA has been very supportive to accommodate whatever it is that they need. And we fully expect, and they have conveyed that they will reciprocate. So whatever is collected there, we will gather that.
Virginia, who is
Okay, thank
carrying
you.
out the Super Reefs project?
So TNC is the local coordinator, And then they're also partnering with, I believe, Stanford University and Woods Hole Institute. Yeah, so it's I believe they have done this in other parts of the world. And now they're bringing it to Belize. But maybe Alicia, I'm really hovering, so maybe Alicia can tell you more details.
Okay.
Yes, TNC is doing a project in conjunction with 2 universities, and because Virginia mentioned Stanford, that's the only one I could remember right now. But it's a big project looking nationally of where our most resilient reefs are, and they're inputting a lot of the data that partners have already collected to try and determine this. And then, as she mentioned, there's a stress test that's going to happen, and to determine if the corals survive past a certain temperature. And yes, they are partnering with UBERI amongst other people if they come on board, but they're leading the project. And sorry, you asked about the project and something else. Did I answer the question?
No, just who was leading this? I hadn't heard about the Super Reefs project.
TNC, and they have conducted this in other parts of the world before. I think I need to bring it up. They've done it. The information is slipping me, sorry. But they've if I'm not mistaken too, they've run some tests in Mexico. There's somewhere that they did in the Caribbean, and then in
think
this
it is
region and
Mexico.
somewhere in I think it's Mexico and somewhere in the Caribbean as well.
Okay. Very interesting and timely, right? Given the situation, great that they're doing it in Belize now.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I would like to go back a little bit for a comment to a comment that from Valdemar that Valdemar made in terms of the proposal. There is a template, Valdemar, to build the proposals, right? There is a short and very succinct template. However, we didn't want you to write the entire proposal on this, just a short document, a couple of pages that would include the main activities, the main results expected, the methodology, and addressing other things that key points that you consider important. This is not only for the committee, right, to have this information in order to analyze information and make comments and questions, and also see if they approve this, but also because we need that everything that has to do with this project, with the marine insurance program and the payout, states, it is in writing, right? In papers, in documents, that we could provide also this information to our donors and other partners, right? So basically, we do have a short format, which is included in the emergency fund guidelines, which is the same format that you use to request the funds from the payout. You can use the same format, the same format, right? It is very succinct, very short, very straightforward, and no need to elaborate on difficult things. So that is going to be my suggestion for the committee, right? And for you too. And also in terms of the trainings, there are, I understand that the dive master training that Kevin Novello is going through right now is that is included in the first in the approved grant, right? That is included as part of the timeline, as part of the work plan and the budget. So these are my comments. I don't know if you have any more comments, Maria Jose, and the rest of the committee. Okay,
I do.
thank you.
If I could,
Go ahead.
I have a
Virginia.
couple questions. And just for my clarification, you were mentioning about proposal format. Is it an expectation that like, I'm sorry, how did the proposal format come up? I think I missed something.
Yes, it's just that Valdemar mentioned earlier that there is not a template, right, to write a proposal for this type of funding. And yes, we do have a template, very short template. So what the question would be right now for the committee is that for the terms of changing this product, right, and using the funds for this specific comprehensive assessment that you are suggesting, are we going to use does DASA need to use to this template and elaborate a very short proposal, right? For this 25K, but because because we are talking here about the $25,000 that were approved to the post-response and the response activities and monitoring. So we are going to use this $25,000 instead to elaborate the map and the comprehensive assessment. So basically the question here would be, if for this change of products, right, do we need or does DASA need to use this format, this proposal format, or a simple document, a couple of pages document with very specific points? That is a question for the committee. Sí, María José, adelante.
Because as Valdemar indicated at the beginning, right, that they wanted to do something very general first to run it by the committee to see if it was feasible. And I think we have clarity now on what it is that you are proposing. Maybe what you already have can be bulleted into type of activities with a bit more detail, like you have provided now, like adding the map and saying it's in these 9 sites, and the budget, because we just need, to tie activities to budgets. That's basically it. But I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks. But what we have now in the conversation this afternoon, you've provided details that I think are important to include. Again, like the map, where it is that it's going to happen, more or less that when it will occur, and then general budget, which is what is not yet here with us. Would that work, Claudia?
Yes, I think it works, because what we need is like everything it is indicated in writing, right?
Yes, we do need, if those 2 pages can be now bulleted and say, this is what we will do, and just maybe put them in bullets in a bit, and that detail that you provided today, that would be very helpful.
Okay,
And
certainly.
attach a budget to it. So it's more like a budget modification request, maybe indicating this was our budget. This is the budget we want now for these activities.
Okay.
Just because
Okay.
it's a budget modification, right?
Yes, certainly. This is something I know we're all pressed for time, so if you could give me some time to work on this. I'm slammed for the remainder of this week, but I could get this back to you by the end of next week.
Certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
And
so basically, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm just thinking that we may have a form we're using in a different initiative that's for budget modification that could be useful. I'll run it by Claudia first and then send it to you, because if you have a space to maybe just fill in, it might be easier. But you tell
Yes.
us.
I am certainly looking for easier at this
Okay.
point. There's just a lot going on. So
No,
certainly.
no, no,
if-
I understand, but we do need to know what the budget modification will be. Because
Absolutely.
we need to take that back to the donor, so that's why. But that could be a possibility. So we
Yes,
can.
that would be
we can
helpful.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm receiving here comments from, you can see there are comments from Scarlett that she's saying from Honduras that it is the most important thing is that in the next documents, they have to present in detail the budget by activity. So it's what we are discussing right now. So we all agree that it is needed to have this information, right? So just to clarify, so you are going to shift lines from the entire budget? I mean,
No,
only the
it's
25K.
yes, it's not the entire budget. Everything else still stands. It's just I think it's called, and Kevin, if you can help me, I think it's called the post-storm response plan. That's the budget line, right, Kevin? Let me see if I
Yes,
can open.
that's right. Wait,
Yes.
let me see.
Which is for 25,000 US dollars. That's the only line that would be modified. Everything else still stands.
Okay, great. So just to clarify, so what we need is a document, a short document from them detailing the activities and the budget, right?
Yes, unless you all send me the format that Maria Jose is suggesting. If that format works for
Okay.
you and you can share it, I will use that. But maybe you can indicate if we are to use it or if we're not. That would be helpful.
Okay, good. Yeah, we
Um,
can work on a format for you.
okay. I did
Have
want to
something simple.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did want to take the opportunity to ask about so if we're shifting this, then it sounds that you're also in agreement that we shift the timeline, because I believe this grant was supposed to end in June or in June, July, and so if we're shifting, then it would end in December 2024. Am I correct?
If the committee agrees, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I think we need to shift it.
And okay, great. And then the reason I'm bringing that up is because we've been trying very hard to plan the brigade training that is also a requirement for the funds. But unfortunately, the trainers are all busy and the only available window at this time is in July. So if it's the timeline has shifted, then that won't be a problem because we can schedule our brigade training in July. So that should be fine, right?
Excellent, yes. Mhm.
Okay, and then I don't know, Claudia, if so we're speaking to Andres Fleites. I don't know if I'm saying that Fleites. And so we're coordinating with him. We've started to have those discussions. And then I've also been liaising with Ralna Lewis from the Wildlife Conservation Society because I know they recently also had their training. Certainly we're trying not to reinvent the wheel, and so we're heeding as much advice and guidance as possible to have a successful training. I just wanted to ensure that at this point, is there anything or any requirement that I should know from Marfon or from the committee in terms of carrying out these brigade trainings?
Yes, Virginia, thank you for the question. There is a technical situation is that there is a package of documents that the participants should fulfill, criteria and documents, and there are also the safeguards, right? So basically what we can do is that Sarah can help us out putting together a package of with the information that you need to send to the participant that they should comply with, right? And so that it is the same thing, the same information that WCS used, right? The same procedure, the same documentation, and also the same safeguards. So basically, it is a packaged information that you just need to put in place. We will send
Okay.
it to you. We will send it to
Okay.
you. Mhm.
Excellent. Thank you.
And Andrea also has this information. I'm gonna meet with them later on today or tomorrow, and we'll see what it is that is applied, what information applies.
All right.
Okay, and we'll send you the information. And July is fine because most of the instructors are busy for May and June.
Yes, that was the reason, because we were initially trying to do the training in May, but they were busy with the tourism season still, so we couldn't get them.
Okay. Okay, great. So, does the committee have other questions? Regina, Scarlett o Alicia, preguntas o comentarios?
Sorry, Claudia, I missed that.
Do you have more
Oh,
questions or
no.
comments?
No, I don't have any question. Sorry, it's just registering. No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So basically the agreements are that I will send you a short format for you to work on the approach, right? The proposal. And then that you will send it by the end of this week. Is that correct, Virginia?
No, the end of next week.
Next week.
Next week. Okay. So from that, we can start working on the adjustments to the grant agreement, right? And there is going to be an extension for this project to end in December or early January next year.
So implementation ends end of December, reporting would be January, right? Is that what you're
Yes.
proposing? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And we will send you the requirements and documentation for the brigade's training.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else?
No, I just would like to take the opportunity to thank the committee for making the time and to being flexible. I know this is a pilot and I think it's really important that you're all open and flexible to just this being such an adaptive process. So I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Claudia, yes, I just want to reinforce what Virginia added here. I'm really grateful for you guys engaging and trying to understand the details of all of this and understanding that we are plugging into the national processes that are going on as well. So thank you again, and I look forward actually to the shorter version of whatever we send in. Maria Jose, if you can make that happen, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Valdemar. Okay, and so if there are no more comments or questions, I think we can end this meeting, right? And continue communication by email to follow up to the agreements.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Gracias.
Goodbye.
Hasta pronto.
Adios.
Sara.